I believe that it is truly simple, right? We don't need to take all these supplements and just spend so much money, hundreds or thousands of dollars a month, a year, for supplements that are not natural to us. We were not designed that way. And that's just another thing of not becoming who we're meant to be. We just keep medicating, and then that has a side effect, and then we take something else. And even if it's the most natural thing, it's not. It's not to our bodies.
Hello and welcome to the Health Wizard podcast. I'm your host, Yelena Isolde Medici, a health and life coach. I'm so excited that you're choosing to listen to my podcast because you are choosing to make your health your priority. The Health Wizard podcast is dedicated to teaching natural, easy to implement practices that you can use to get your health on track and become the person you used to be before getting sick and the person you're dreaming of becoming again, happy, healthy, full of energy, and living a life filled with joy. Now, very quickly, before we dive into the good stuff, I want to remind you that this podcast is intended for education and entertainment purposes only. This podcast is not a substitute for professional medical advice. If you have a medical condition, please seek the help of a licensed medical professional. I am not a medical doctor. I do not treat, diagnose, prescribe, or make claims outside of my areas of expertise. So by choosing to listen to the Health Wizard podcast, you take full responsibility for your own actions. And when you hear the testimonials of the people who were able to get well, realize that their outcomes depended on their effort and their specific situation. With that said, let's jump into today's episode. Please enjoy. Hello, wonderful people, and happy year 2021. This is officially the first episode of the Health Wizard podcast for season 3 for the year of 2021. And what a year it is going to be. While the year 2020 was filled with a lot of doubt, fear, and upheaval for the entire population of our globe, I am hoping, and all of my intentions are on making the year 2021 a year of hope, healing, and health for all of us here, and of course for as many people as we can reach. This year we have a lot of amazing new things coming your way, including but not limited to a whole new season that will be filled with a lot of thought-provoking information that will go against the grain of conventional medicine and will give you the tools needed to start empowering and healing yourself naturally with natural tools. We're also rolling out an app in the next few weeks that is called 360 Degree Life, where we're going to bring you into the community that is filled with women and men who are focused on nothing but a natural, active and positive healing of their bodies. No more so-called support groups where people go and lick each other's wounds and do things that are not helping them advance in their health and life goals. We have created a community for you where you're going to be absolutely empowered to live the best life you can imagine when it comes to your health, wealth, your personal goals, your personal calling, and so much more. So be on the lookout. We're going to be announcing the opening of that community in the next few weeks. Meanwhile, we're already opening it up to our clients, and they're loving every single moment of it. We're also going to be bringing live events your way, online and in-person events this year, and so much more. So stay tuned in to every single episode, because with every episode, we're going to be rolling out more news and more benefits for you. And this year, I'm also going to ask you to actively participate in the creation of the Health Wizard podcast. I'm going to ask you after every episode to go ahead and go to wherever you're listening to this podcast and leave a 5-star review. So whether it's on iTunes, on Google Play, or any other platform, we need to see your reviews so more people can be reached, so we can bump our podcast to the top of the list and reach a lot more people this year. So please spread the word, listen to it, leave reviews, and send it to your friends and family. As of right now, I am going to kick off this season and this year with a very special interview with one of my current clients who had come through quite a journey. When she first reached out to me, she was at a breaking point in her life. She was figuring out how to unbecome the person that her illness created to become what she felt that the divine in her is calling her to be. We focused on her health. 2 weeks into working together, after almost quarter of a century struggling, Aimee was symptom free. And now, 3 months into our process together and her progress, we're focusing on discovering that calling that has been placed by God, by the divine in her, on her life. So today we're going to take a deep dive to understand what it is that is keeping us, men and women are like, from living our best life ever. And some of the times it is our illnesses. It is the thyroid issues, the Hashimoto's, thyroid eye disease, cancers, infertility, and other things. But they get in the way, jamming the airwaves between us and our calling, and not allowing us to live our best lives ever. So today we're going to dive into that. We're going to talk about what percentage of our success is dependent on diet, and what percentage of the rest of what we need to do is dependent on uncovering, unlocking the best, happiest version of who you are and who you're called to be. I want to introduce you to Aimee. She's a client of mine, but only days into working together, we both discovered that we are soul sisters. We're working for the same greater good for humanity. And our connection was through our physical struggles, only to unlock our spiritual calling. Aimee is fantastic in so many ways. She is a wife, she is a mother, she runs a department for the church where she is working, and she's so much more. Above all things, she is a divine spirit that is placed on this planet to enjoy her life and to fulfill her calling. So without further ado, let's welcome Aimee. What I want to do right now is pick Aimee's brain about her journey to this new version of herself that she discovered. So Aimee, what I would love for you today, first of all, welcome. I would love for you to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do. And then what I'd love to do is let's start a conversation about where you were just 3 months ago, 6 months ago,
Absolutely.
what your health looked like.
Absolutely. So my name is Aimee Levine. I am a mom of 2 teenagers and love it. And I am the children's ministry director at our church, and I help with youth. I do all of the admin, the media, so a lot of different things. It's just so amazing. I love my work. I love, my kids, but something was missing, and that's where you come in.
So Aimee, tell me a little bit about before we met, which was merely 3 months ago. You were going through health challenges, life challenges. Can you describe a little bit to our audience of what is it that you were struggling with on first the health and then
Right.
on an emotional level?
Sure. So it goes back quite a while, and I won't go through many details, but I feel like it's really important. After my pregnancy, it really became noticeable. Now, my boys are 17 and 18, so this has been going on quite a while. But even prior to that, I knew something was wrong. And I would go to the doctors, and I just never really got the answer that I wanted. Like everything was fine. It wasn't fine. And it kept getting worse and worse and worse until my boys were young, so preschool age, and I just could not function. I really couldn't get off the couch. And that's just not like me at all. Just, I saw my life unbecoming of who I was actually meant to be. And there was nothing I could do. It was just watching somebody just kind of die slowly. It just wasn't pretty at all. I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's and a myriad of other things. And there was one instance I knew something was wrong. I kept complaining of being tired and all these things. And I left with a prescription for Prozac.
They diagnosed you with Hashimoto's, but they're giving you Prozac.
Prozac.
How did that make sense to your doctor?
Well, it made no sense to me. I remember standing in the parking lot and I just laughed because it made no sense at all. But, they knew better, or,
We're
you
going to
know,
put that in air quotes.
yeah,
They know better,
I know they
right?
know better. No. And I took it, and it was probably 30 days. And the boys spilled grape juice on my white carpeting. And I was like, "Meh." I'm like, that's not me. That's not how we're meant to live our life at all. We're not meant to live it medicated
Frozen,
if we don't need it.
frozen.
Frozen. Yeah. And I just said, no more, no more. So that began my search into naturopaths and different doctors, but I just never really found what was an answer. And that was trying to find a healthy, natural way to do it. somebody that addressed everything. I was just frustrated and kind of at my wit's end trying to find an answer. And I know that I am motivated, but in this particular area of my life, I felt like I was lazy. I felt like I couldn't do it. I felt like I would set goals and not even work towards them. It
So
makes
not the person that you were born to be, not the person that it seems
no.
like you were before your children were born.
Exactly. And you feel like you're lazy or not worthy, or you just didn't try hard enough, or you didn't, it was all me. What am I doing wrong? But then when you think about it and you think about, or I thought about other aspects of my life, I achieved the goals that I set in every aspect. It didn't matter what it was, except this one area. And that's when I heard a podcast from you. And it took me, what was it, 6 months after stalking you and
You really do
listening.
your research very
I
well.
do.
So it was not like you heard me on a podcast and you contacted me. My husband, who is also working for me, he was corresponding with somebody and she said, it sounds too good to be true. Can it really be that good? And it sounds like
Correct.
that might be what you were going through. It sounded
Right.
like very interesting, but too good to be true. Cannot be true, therefore, right?
Right. Right. And I've been through many programs before. I know a lot of people have, and it just never works. And you think well, I thought it was myself. It's not the program, it's me. And how is this going to be any different? And how is this going to give me other information or really tackle the precise issues that I was struggling with that was holding me back? And I couldn't figure out what those were, and asking for help is really hard. Maybe it's just me. I but I wanted to figure it out by myself. And I just thought sometimes it's okay to ask for help. Sometimes we can figure it out, but it's going to take us years. And I remember telling you that I had had enough.
I
That was the
remember the
decision.
day when you reached out and you said, I'm done. I've had enough. It's my time now. So, what was it for you, Aimee? What was that last straw that you said, it's enough, enough of do it yourself and other programs? And 6 months of stalking me. What was the final straw?
It was so sad to see my life just go by. And we always say, or I always say, tomorrow, I'll start tomorrow, or I'll start next week, or I will be really serious. I'm just going to do this one thing, cheat with this one meal, or it's one meal, it's okay. But that one meal turns into a week. And for me, 25 years later, that's sad. If you take that and do a trajectory of where I would be in another 25 years. So that's not good.
Yeah.
And I want to live my life and be spent. And I told you that at the very end, when I look back, I want to be spent. I want to have a life lived for God. But it was all these tiny decisions that I had made, not any big one, all these tiny decisions that I had given up my life, and it was unacceptable at that point. And I said,
It's
no more.
heartbreaking, right?
Yeah.
I remember myself when I was dealing with depression and hypothyroidism, infertility, and I remember the same thing. I felt like I had a calling, but you cannot get to your calling when there's so
No.
much noise in your life. There's the depression, there's not feeling well. I was looking through some of my pictures today and I looked at images like about that much, 1/3 of my brows were missing. So small things, but they add up to where you become somebody who you were not meant to be and you get lost. And it's so
Right.
hard to fulfill your calling, whether it is to go serve God in the capacity that you
Mm-hmm.
are, or serve God in capacity reaching humanity, whatever it is, it becomes almost impossible because then you're
Right.
straining to fulfill your calling. You're straining to hear what your calling is, as opposed to kind of wake up, throw the covers off, and step into your calling. You kind of took 25 some years, you kind of like in five
Sorry.
minutes here we went. No, I love that, but I want to pick your brain on this. Give me your worst day, that how you felt. How was it for you from the moment you wake up and how you had to deal with your children, your job? relationships, whatever it was. And how were your doctors in the process? Because at one point they're giving you Prozac. At
Hmm.
another point, apparently they're putting you on thyroid medications. You're discovering that you have leaky gut. There are other issues. You're trying out different diets. So walk me through that process.
So what it looked like for me, and when I look back at pictures when my boys were little, preschool, if you look at those pictures, I'm either on the couch or I'm not participating.
I call it couch parenting. I actually
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. And that, you can't parent like that. That's not, do you ever have, toddlers or preschoolers? You cannot parent. That it takes a lot of energy and you really need to be present. And again, I thought about that and did the trajectory out 10 years, when they were teenagers and what that was going to look like. And that was unacceptable to me to not have a relationship with my kids. It was not okay. And I knew something had to be done. I just didn't know what. So a day was getting up, pushing myself out of bed. I really didn't want to get out of bed, doing the things that I had to do, not with joy, just getting through the day and looking forward to when I could go to bed again. I remember one day I was feeling kind of anxious for a couple of weeks. I didn't know what it was. I was driving in our little town and I literally thought I was having a heart attack. And I went into urgent care. I told the boys what was going on. They were young, just not to scare them, but like, this is what we're doing. And I literally thought I was having a heart attack. And the doctor said, you're going to have to go to your general practitioner because I think it's anxiety. What? What?
Well,
So,
first of all, you're depressed and now it's
yeah.
anxiety.
Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
so it was just overwhelming and trying to get through the day was just going through the motions, not living. And if I looked at who I was meant to be, I had become this person that was not okay, unacceptable to live my life this way. All these little decisions, and those decisions weren't necessarily all the decisions made by me, but they were decisions not to use my voice and say, no, I need you to do this. I need you to do,
So you felt like you were not verbalizing, not vocalizing
no,
who you truly were, which is very
no.
interesting point, Aimee. And that now all the listeners, they're going to get
Yeah.
basically a coaching session right now. Because what I've noticed, and now we actually find that, well, this piece, we don't find data yet. I have a lot of data for other things, but I've been doing coaching for 11 years now, going on 12. What I've noticed is a lot of women who do not verbalize, don't vocalize their own personality, their own needs, basically their personhood. If it
Right.
goes trapped in almost without a fail, I see that women develop thyroid issues. Like it is not a coincidence. I've been watching this for including myself. Like, where did I lose my voice? When did my problems happen? Because I was developing, I was on track to get to where you were, to Hashimoto's, but I started off with hypothyroidism. But then when I started to work with women, it was without a fail. Like, diet is fantastic. We can fix the diet, but you're becoming somebody who you're not when you're trying to hide who you are. And what we find is we bend to the will of how we're raised by our parents, how our spouses expect us to be, our partners, then what kind of parents are we expected to be by the society. So maybe it's the school, the church, the synagogue. But we, in essence, what we do is we mold ourselves to the will and expectations of others, and we become so much of somebody else that then we need to, I love what you said before we started this interview, we need to start this journey of unbecoming,
Hmm.
unbecoming of everything that we became in order to gain our voice back, and with that to heal the thyroid, heal the body, lose weight, and all that. I'm jumping the gun here, but that is so brilliant that you're recognizing that you've become everything that everybody wanted you to be, but in a process you forgot to ask, who do I, Aimee, want to be? For me,
Hmm.
then for my family, for God, for all these things. So take it back. It was just
Yeah.
brilliant. I had to jump in.
No, I think that was great. And it takes me back to, I think it was our second meeting and we were chatting and you said, you had me close my eyes and just, where do I feel stuck? And it was this lump right here. Now I don't physically have a lump, but it was stuck, just stuck and also, in the pit of my stomach, but you just you can't go further. You need to have a voice. You need to become who you're supposed to be. You need to go through the experiences that you have and have a voice, and that voice is okay. That voice is who you are, and it has to be heard. And for so many years, I was someone else for everyone around me. I think we do that as caregivers. I know that I did that. I was who my parents wanted me to be, a
Mhm.
wife, a mom, and you do all these things for me to get through the day. It
And to
was
be
survival.
loved, I'm going to jump in here to be loved. So, as a child, if we're raised by parents who are not aware of our needs, and what you learn in this program is like, who am I? Do I love myself first? But just from day one, if you're a good girl, then, or I don't want you to do this, this is not what we do. Just listening to those words, what we tell our children, well, because you're misbehaving, I'm going to punish you so you can change who you are, so you can fit the mold of my own expectations. Now, I'm not advocating for no discipline with children. I have a very
Right.
disciplined child who is a very much a free spirit. But
Right.
what I'm saying is from day one, we're programmed to not only bend to the will and expectations of our caregivers, but also not to trust ourselves because, for example, I don't want to eat this, I want to eat something else. And let's say it's choosing between two great options.
Right.
And then your parents are going to bully you into eating something else or maybe something negative. And I've seen that happen. It's just one of the examples, but we teach our children sometimes not to trust themselves.
Yes.
And we start so early on. If a child is crying, we're like, shh, be quiet, instead of saying, what is it that really is bothering you?
Absolutely. We definitely do that. And like I said, I run our children's ministry here and speak with parents and talk a lot about parenting. And we really need to get to the root of that, get to their heart so that we're not squelching them, so that we don't go another generation of children and people who aren't speaking what's on their heart, and they need to become who they are. And we need to support that again with discipline, but there's a way to do that and honor who that child is
Yes.
without breaking their spirit.
I'm
So,
one of the biggest advocates for children for that reason. I
yeah,
was blessed and lucky, fortunate, whatever we can call it, to have parents who had their own ways, like you do certain things to be, in this family to do it. But at the end of the day, it was kind of like figure it out. And I love that part, figuring out. And until my 20s, late 20s, I never had a health issue. It was not until after I moved out on my own and kind of got into a lot of pain emotionally and all with things that were going on in my life that I developed an illness. But in the process, I was the healthiest person there was because I was empowered to have my voice. So let's
right.
take it back to you. You're going through this process, you're raising your children, you're married, you're taking care of people, and you discover that there is no voice. Meanwhile, your doctors are giving out pills like vitamins, one for anxiety, one for
Right.
depression, one for something else. At what point do you finally understand that while doctors could be great for acute situations in your condition, they simply were not doing what they were supposed to?
It's not, because my thyroid medication just kept going up and up and up. And really, in the blood work, there was really nothing to see. There was no change. So, if that's the case, then what exactly is that doing? Nothing at all. And then I was on supplements, and then that needed to be bumped up every single time. And that absolutely makes no sense. And I don't believe that we were designed to take things that are not, it just doesn't have to be that hard. I remember after speaking with you, and maybe it was a week or two into the program, I said, this is simple. It's hard or it's not easy. There is work to be
Yes.
done, but it truly is simple. And I believe that it is truly simple, right? We don't need to take all these supplements and just spend so much money, hundreds or thousands of dollars a month, a year, for supplements that are not natural to us. We were not designed that way. And that's just another thing of not becoming who we're meant to be. We just keep medicating, and then that has a side effect. And then we take something else. And even if it's the most natural thing, It's not to our bodies. And we
It's
just need to,
let's make it humorous. If you read
yeah,
in Genesis first 3 chapters, it does not say, and God planted a tree of supplements in the Garden of Eden, and He placed a man and a
exactly.
woman and said, take pills and you'll be okay. So really, whether you believe in evolution, intelligent design, creation, the picture here is for thousands, for me, for tens and hundreds of thousands of years, humanity has been here and doing really well. Our only problems have been wars and insufficient nutrition and insufficient sanitation. As we're evolving as humanity, what we have now is we went completely crazy. We have more peace and we have fewer wars, but what we're doing now is, instead of tilling the ground and really eating from the ground and being as close to it as possible, we're like, ooh, what can we do not to change? Because like you
Right.
said, what we do here in the program in 360 Impact Health is, it's simple. It's not always easy, but it's simple. But people don't want simple because it requires self change. And what we're doing is find out the root cause, change your trauma, address it, resolve your emotional stressors, change the person who you're on, find your voice, change the diet. It's a lot of simple and easy things to do, but they're not
Right.
always easy to implement.
No, you have to do it.
You have to do it. And
You
when
have
you
to
go
do
to the doctor, what happens? 15 minutes later, there's 2 prescriptions in your hands, and you're like, you
Right.
don't have to change a thing. You just can go fill them up, and
Right.
now we are going to drive the cost of prescription up. And with that, you're going to feel broke. And
Mhm.
not to mention, each prescription has possible side effects. It's each medication. Levothyroxine, for example, that is for thyroid, I think I counted over 60 possible side effects. So to get your numbers in line, which a lot of people with thyroid issues do, and with PCOS and with other hormone imbalances, the trade-off is your numbers are looking fantastic and your doctor says it's working. But then you're going, well, if it's working, why am I still feeling miserable? Why still I
Right.
cannot lose weight? And what we don't know is what we don't know, right? Is the
Right.
root cause does not require medication. It requires simple but hard work.
It does. And not hard, but it
Yes.
requires focus.
Yes.
And I don't know about, everybody else, but it's really hard not to keep researching
Mm.
and looking at other programs and looking at what might be better. It's, and you have to make
Easier.
it, yeah, easier,
Easier.
or that works faster,
Yes.
or,
Well,
and
and we're going to get to faster here in a moment with you, lady, because you're one of those cases that we were like, faster. This is beyond fast. But the point is valid. We get addicted. There's actual science, Amy, that the whole reason social media is designed the way it is. So, for example, Twitter, you can just sit there and scroll for hours and hours. Like, you read one post, you read another. With Facebook, with Instagram, the same. With Facebook, you get almost like, oh, I'm at the bottom, but nope, it says loading, and boop, comes more. And the brain gets this reward. Actually, we release chemicals in the reward center that say, I'm learning something, great job, let's learn again. And what we walk away with is a lot of information and almost zero transformation.
exactly. And you just keep going and keep going because it feels good and it feels like you're doing something productive. And it's not, because there's no action. And then if you buy a program and you've taken action, but then you don't follow through, which I have done. And
How many
like,
books do you have on your bookshelf for what you
well,
needed?
many that are going.
Remember, you and I had a conversation, because I'm always like, I'm writing the book and I paused it, and I'm writing the
Yeah.
book, I paused it. And you told me something that I absolutely loved
Oh,
hearing.
so
You said,
glad.
if you had a book, Elena, I would have bought your book and then would have been on my bookshelf, and I would have been like, her stuff doesn't work. We're done, moving on. So
Absolutely.
there is, I love books. I am, one of my books is coming out this fall, and then I'm writing another one already. But there is time and place for books, but transformation goes beyond information. Transformation requires the things that I think after 6 months of stalking me, you finally realize you have to take action that goes on a transformative level.
Correct. And I knew I wasn't able to do that myself in the allotted time that I thought was okay. I thought that I really needed to be serious about this. And for that, I needed to have somebody with me that would guide me and walk through that process with me. Otherwise, it was going to take
Another
so many
25
years.
years.
Yeah, yeah. And I was
Yes.
unwilling to go one more day. And so I think we had spoken and I hadn't gotten the information. I gleaned a lot of what I could and I just started right then and there. What I
Yes,
knew.
you jumped the gun. It was
I did.
we spoke, and we usually wait for people to do their intake, and then we're going to design your plan of action. And I'm like, Amy's already implementing, and with you here's what was this is priceless, because you just said you want something that works quicker. Hold your breath, y'all, because when Aimee came in, she checked off 26 symptoms. She was on thyroid medication for over a decade. She was taking supplements, and we're looking at how long. And we usually, like, ballpark figure, we go 3 months, about 80% improvement or maybe more. And then we go 6 months, that's what we normally expect. 2 weeks later, Aimee sends in her progress report. And I go, there's nothing on the symptom survey. I tell my
Right.
assistant, said, Rimgaili, can you please email Aimee to confirm
Right.
it? And she's like, nope. So 2 weeks after
2 weeks.
25 years of ups and downs and 17 plus years of possible medication and supplements,
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks, no symptoms. How? What? Why?
2 weeks not having to, I woke up and I didn't have to use an inhaler, feeling like I was out of breath. All of those symptoms just gone. Some were gone within a few days, some like a day, like I stopped and then it was gone. And some of the more complex ones,
Mhm.
they were gone in 2 weeks and have not come back. I actually have to put on your checklist. Yes, I have looked it over. Yes, I have read every word. I have no symptoms, just to make sure, Rimgali and your team knows that I have looked through it. No,
Oh, wait,
no.
you're not the first one with you, especially when somebody progresses over a period of time, which on average we see about 10% sometimes per week or so. With you, and we've seen other clients 3 4 weeks, 5 weeks, very fast, some of the cases. We know to check in, we know to email and say, listen, we just want to be sure for you. Yes, you're like
Right.
predicting that there's going to be a question. Yes, I'm absolutely certain.
Right.
So
Right.
2 weeks in, you
Weeks
signed
in.
up for a year with me, and then we have this
Yes.
conversation saying, well, are you still, are there any regrets? You signed up for a year, and you said no, because this is where we started to really dig in into what you said right before this interview is unbecoming. Unbecoming who the illness created you to be, unbecoming
Right.
the person who maybe you are bringing in a social environment created. I want to hear about that, because I often interview clients who graduate, and we do talk about the releasing trauma and all. For you, it's a beautiful, beautiful process. We're only 3 months in right now with
Mhm.
Aimee, symptom free. Right now, our next step is working with your doctor to get you off medication. But at this point, it's just it's becoming who you want to be, who you desire to be, while unbecoming the old you. So walk me through the process. At what point and what goes off in your spirit to say, I'm going to unbecome, and what parts of your life did you start letting go and resolve?
It's so much. I knew going in I would need a year, not thinking that it was going to take that long, not going in with negativity. It was going to take, my expectation, well, it's going to take forever. No, I just know myself. And I knew that I would be good for 30 days, 6 weeks, maybe even 2 months. And I knew I was life was going to get in the way. It always does, that we go through maybe a stressful time, and I needed to be sure that I wasn't going to fall back into old habits, which I have done. Not bad, not all the way, but that was going all day without eating, not feeding my body, correctly, not having meals, not being honoring to myself and putting everybody first. And that is kind of my go-to.
And
And
Aimee, why is it not okay? So you're a church person, right? You are a believer. You go in a lot of the religious circles. We're taught to be selfless, and we are taught to pour out and give to others. You and I had many conversations over this, and you know my stance on it. But I want to hear it from you. At what point do you realize that it is not okay to constantly be pouring out?
it's because we need to fill ourselves up. We need to have, again, I am with children all the time, and it's so important, I think, this little light of mine. And it's really important to let that light shine, let who we are meant to be shine so brightly, whether we're a believer or not. We need to shine so brightly of who we are, because not only for us, but for others. There are other people are looking at us all the time and making judgments, not bad, but how they should be. There are teens and kids looking up to us all the time. If we don't take time to take care of ourselves, we're training that next generation to be like that. We're
I
training
want
them.
us to almost pause here and sink
Yeah.
in, because this is exactly, I think, what we've created, a world of brokenness in the pursuit of either the calling, the financial freedom and wealth, or religious convictions. We've
Mhm.
been so almost apologetic for wanting something for ourselves on the surface, like,
Mhm.
and I'm not talking about money, I'm talking
Right.
about wanting a piece of real estate that is ours, within us, our heart, our spirit. And I always go to the 10 commandments, and one of them says that love your neighbor as you love yourself. And
Absolutely.
I wish that the translation in English was better, which would
Yeah.
state, in my world, learn to love yourself first, in order, so in order that you can love your neighbor effectively. Because if you don't
Right.
love yourself, how can you possibly bestow love that you don't know on somebody
Right.
else? So we're
Right.
always operating out of this empty wells that we have. But you're bringing up this amazing um, topic, amazing point, that when we are doing this, we're teaching the next generation to do the same thing. That means if we are the people who are stuck with hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's and PCOS, endometriosis, anxiety, depression, panic attacks, and we're teaching our children the habits and lifestyle that get us there, we're creating next broken generation that will need
Right.
medication, will look to
Mhm.
surgeries, will look to psychiatry, psychology, whatever else,
Yeah.
as opposed to looking to the divine within them to start healing.
Exactly. Or worse yet, they become so turned off by what we're doing, and then they say, "I'm never going to do that to myself. I'm not gonna do that to my children." They turn their back on everything and go completely in the opposite direction, which is not good as well. They become selfish and just not who they're meant to be either, and that is a travesty. Either end of the spectrum.
Yes,
There
well,
needs to
and
be
I
balance.
again, you're bringing up these beautiful words that we use. Selfish, selfish. Sometimes people say, "Well, if you don't want to live for other, that's selfish." And there's a huge distinction.
There
There is
is.
self-fullness, which is self-awareness, which
Mhm.
means that you recognize who you are,
Right.
what your calling is, what you need in the moment to be whole. So for you, it's like you said, no more. It is no longer
No
acceptable.
more.
And you knew that it was the year of Aimee. This is what Aimee does to be well. But it doesn't mean that you're selfish. Selfishness is when I don't give a flip about anybody else. It's me, 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 me,
Mhm.
me, only me. And a lot of times selfish people are broken people. So we're not talking
Right.
about that.
No.
We're talking about self-awareness and self-fullness, which means it starts with me, with the divine
Right.
in me. And so if you have religious convictions, with that relationship with the divine, the next step is going to be family, the next step is community and your calling. So it goes
Right.
in, out, 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 as opposed to let's serve
Absolutely.
the world and then at the expense of who we are.
Absolutely. And it's okay to say no. And it's okay to let your voice be heard. And it's okay if people don't agree with that. That's fine. We need to know who we are. We need to know what we want and live like that. We need to make each of those small decisions every single day in line with that person that we want to be, because it's those small decisions that we make that end up where we are, after a year, 5 years, 10 years. It's those decisions that we have to guard closely to make sure we stay on the path that we're meant to stay on. We need to
Yeah,
list.
there's a trajectory, a small, I don't know
Yeah,
if I've done this with you. I do it with some of my potential clients, with clients. I pull out my iPad and I usually doodle. And on the screen we start there, I draw a little graph. So if you all can
right.
imagine this, a line to where this is a now point, and then I draw a line 3 years from now. And then from both ends, I decide, okay, 3 years from now, best case scenario,
Mhm.
worst case scenario. And then I draw a line from now till that point, worst or best. And then we'll look at, sometimes it takes a small decision, but the trajectory from where we are now to where
Right.
we can be so huge. Because if we don't make
It is.
decisions, we continue as we are, or if we make a decision to do nothing, we get worse. And
Right.
you're correct. The small decisions, it doesn't have to be this life shattering,
Mhm.
earth shattering big decisions. Oh my God, I quit everything and I went to, Bahamas, Brazil, wherever, to live out the rest of your life, and or go to live somewhere in a sanctuary or become a monk. We're talking about, what do I eat today? Who do I become
Right.
today? How do I talk to others? And for you, that was a transition, right? So for you,
Right.
relationships were a big thing where you started to make change, because in relationships is where
Mhm.
we either have our
Right.
voice, or we lose our voice. So you started to vocalize you more. Talk to me about the
Absolutely.
transition overall. How do you stand the ground to become who you were meant to be and unbecome of who you were programmed to be?
So before, I would just get things done. So if this is what I needed to do, if people asked me to do this, or I saw something that needed to be done, I just did it. That When we do that, and that's not in line with who we are and who we're meant to be, makes us, or me, angry, builds up resentment, any number of things, but bitter. We don't want to be bitter, but it builds up and we don't know how to release it. I didn't know how to release it. I laugh now, but you showed me some things to help me do that. But just saying no. It's okay to say, I'm feeling burned out. I need a break. And it's okay. And I've done that. And the world still turns, things still got done, and I don't feel resentment for those decisions, and honestly, it's the best thing. Somebody else has the blessing of doing whatever that was. Somebody else can step in. I didn't have to feel guilty about it, and it felt really good because, like I said, it was a blessing all around, and I didn't feel angry or resentment to get whatever that thing was done, and then worked on relationships and feeling love and feeling grateful for everything that has happened, the good, the bad, the ugly sometimes, because it makes us exactly who we are. But there is a point in time, and I had reached it, to say no. I'm unwilling to do this anymore. I'm unwilling to just push through and do something that is not in line with who I am, you know? And if somebody else can do that, I'll go ahead and delegate it. And that's perfectly fine. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to say, I can't do this. That's
And it's
perfectly
okay to
fine.
also say, what is it that you want to do? How is it that you want to be accepted and heard? And it's not always about just saying no, it's sometimes about
Right.
saying yes to the right thing. So,
Yes.
uh, one of your yeses was when we spoke first, and you said, this is my year, this is for me, not acceptable, not this is my yes to me. But
Right.
our path to healing is laid with a million yeses. Not only no's to a lot of things, but yeses to the things that are
Hmm.
opposite. And I
Right.
usually emphasize that I would rather say yes to something as opposed to no to something. And
Right.
sometimes when you say enough yeses, the other things that you would say no to, they take care of themselves.
Right.
So
Right.
in a process, you start saying yes to you in one way or another. What were the things that you began to say yes to?
I said yes to taking time to make my meals in the evening to be prepared and ready to go. That will take some time to be every single week. But I try. I say yes to that. I say yes to taking time. I say yes to have people help. I say yes to enjoying life and not just working all the time. I absolutely love what I do, but there has to be a balance with everything. There has to be time for me. I'm a major introvert. I know people that know me don't believe that, but I need my time.
Just like when they look at me and they're like, Elena,
No.
introvert, and me, I'm like you when I'm done. Like,
Right,
leave me alone. I don't want to talk to
right,
anyone else. But in that comes your strength. But you figured it
right.
out. You're an introvert. You need that
Mhm.
preparation time and also recovery
Right.
time.
Right. So to be my best and show love for people around and be grateful and do my very, very best and give my all, I need that time for me. I need time in prayer or meditation. I need to take that time. I need to make the time to exercise. And it doesn't always look like what people think. I said, I like dancing. I have no rhythm, but love dancing, love music. I'm going to do that. And that is my exercise. And then I'll build up to the other things,
Yes,
but it
because
has
you're
to be
saying
mine.
yes to things that make you joyful. And I
Right.
think that this is where a lot of misunderstanding is, and you're just full of wisdom today. But I hear a lot of times people almost like struggling, oh my God, I have to go to the gym again. Well, that's not really saying yes to weight loss or health, because you are going, and we all need to work out. I get that.
Right.
But when you are going into something that is good for you, but that you're stressed, your cortisol levels are up. It's
Yeah.
not like you're going to lose weight anyway.
No.
So why not start with something that gives you joy, like dancing?
Right.
For me, it was power yoga. When I started, it's like, oh my God, I'm in love. And I
Yes.
did that long enough until I built up my thirst and hunger for there's more, than I did high intensity interval training and other things.
Exactly.
So yes, you're saying, as opposed to saying, no, I don't want to do it, but I will do it. You keep saying yes to yourself, which is much more powerful.
Absolutely. And yes to those things that matter to you, and taking a look at the different things. So this doesn't fit it doesn't fit who I am right now. And I know that's going to change a little bit as we go in. I remember speaking to you and here are my goals. Well, now I'm 3 weeks in or 4 weeks in, and I just remember letting you know I feel lost because I kind of achieved a lot of
What do
them.
I do with 9 months if I achieved all of my goals in 4 weeks?
I'm like, I think that I need a new set of goals. I think that, I need a little help because I'm feeling a little lost, which I knew was going to happen. And I'm so grateful that we met, that I said yes to working with you, because I knew that time was coming. And then you just sort of flounder around, and I don't want to flounder around at all. I knew I
Because they're
wanted,
bigger goals. You've
yeah,
achieved. And it's so interesting because I just released another podcast that we did with Bilan, who graduated, and that's what she
yes.
said. She said a couple of months in, I'm like, I've accomplished my goals. What do we do? And she said,
Right.
I just upgraded them. And this is for you, and this is what I loved about working with you, and I'm still working with you. So I love that is you didn't shy away from this challenge. What is your bigger goal? And I remember the day when you and I sat down and I had my iPad and I'm like
I love your
drafting
iPad.
and drawing and we're doing things. And I said, don't tell me what is it that you think that is safe that you want, but tell me your biggest, scariest dream. And you dreamt big. Do you want to share that dream? Because I think it's very powerful.
Yes, I would love to. So I work with children, and my passion is children and youth. I would love, and I work with kids now, but teach them ways of coping and not settling. If they can get that now, they don't have to be my age and just figuring it out, giving a voice and teaching them those skills, teaching them leadership, teaching them how to cope and how to become who they're meant to be and stay strong in that, to let their light shine. And I want to do that with children and youth, but not just at a local level. I want to be international. I want to go and speak, and I am. I mean, that is just who I am. I just love them. I love spending time with them. It was right before I said yes to you, I took my son to a gaming convention up in Boston. Very cool. I was probably the second oldest person there. There was a man who was retired. But it was so wonderful to be with, let's say, the 12 to, early 20-year-olds, and listen to their energy and listen to how they wanted the world to be, and also listening to their struggles and knowing that if people like us, and there are people in the world that can help them, and mentor them and walk through to become who they're meant to be, they can achieve that faster. They don't have to get lost in all this muck and mire that we go through. I feel like it's important because it makes us who we are, but if we can help them through that.
Then they would
And
never have to be as sick as we, you and I were,
right,
because they would have
right,
the tools to cope, to express. Imagine if something is happening to you, as opposed to storing the trauma inside of your body, you find ways to prevent it from happening, or to immediately go into a healing mode, as opposed to
right.
a quarter of a century later, you go, ooh, there's something wrong and I
There
need
is
to
something
fix
wrong.
that. But I love that you have this big, it's the vision is bigger. I can't remember who said it, and I wish that I did, but I read it somewhere that basically, if your dreams can be achieved within your lifetime, they're not big enough. So I
Absolutely.
always want us to dream. When it comes to health, we want to achieve it in our lifetime.
Yes.
When it comes to a vision that some of us are blessed to have, we want to go so big and scary that A, is going to take more than our lifetime to accomplish, or B, is going to take more than just you and I to accomplish. And for you,
Absolutely.
that vision is birthed. You're like, yes, I want to work with youth, and yes, I want to do this, but eventually I want to train people to reach more and more and go international. And it's not something that a person who is ridden with anxiety or depression or Hashimoto's can accomplish. So you needed to get that noise out of your way so that you can
Absolutely.
focus really on what you're truly about, and that is your
Hmm.
calling.
Right. Right. I'm so excited. And then what do they do with the hurts that they have and the anger and the anxiety that they have? Let's get over that and let's help you become who you're meant to be. And that is so exciting. I wake up every morning beyond excited. Okay, what can I do today to make this happen even faster and even faster? Yeah,
Well,
I
let's
love
talk
it.
about that, because this is sauce. I never give out anyone to anyone unless you're my client. But I think I feel generous today. So I am a science geek. This is something I've done.
Yes.
I love exact science, so physics, math, chemistry, really easy for me. I never struggled. I never got to be in those classes. For me, whether it's statistics or linear algebra or anything else, I eat that for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I fell in love with quantum physics. And the principle of it is that in the quantum field, there is really no time. There's no this contamination of flesh, right? Everything is existing as a possibility, and all possibilities are possible to happen right in the moment if we open the door to them. A lot of physics mumbo jumbo here, but all of that is to say that we can choose any possible quantum possibility of our future created in our heads and our spirits, and then start doing things that we need, taking action, feeling passionate about it, taking one step at a time to get it. And this is the principle that I use, including health. So when you came to me, Aimee, we set those goals. That
Right.
first assignment is, what do you want your life to look like? When? How soon do we get there? And then our goal is to beat the deadline. So for you, instead of a year, you got there in 2 weeks.
Right.
Fantastic. But for you, you're practicing that. When we first got on preparation for this interview, you said you're exercising your quantum reality. So when and how did you design it? What does it look like? And what are the practical steps that you take in order to make that quantum dream a reality right now?
Right. So specifically, I think we spoke 2 weeks ago, and instead of looking at the giant picture, I wake up in the morning. Actually, I go to bed and I think about the things that I need to do the next day so that I can, dream on it. And I wake up in the morning. I thank God that He gave me an extra day, and then what I'm grateful for and what I'm going to do. And I don't think about the huge things, but what if this is where I'm going, and I am, what steps do I need to take today to make that a reality? So, if I want to help youth and help kids, and this is what I want to do, who can I help today? Who can I reach out to see if, they're hurting and need a little bit of extra care? Who can I counsel with? Who can I meet with? I also looked at, okay, if speaking is what I want to do, what is my next project? Where am I going to go? Who am I going to speak to? Who am I going to address? Who am I going to help?
I love
And
that none
I
of the
took a
things that
lesson.
you're mentioning right now is, how much more research do I need to do in order to heal my
No,
body? That's not a problem anymore.
no. I'm like, I just follow your steps because I don't know better than you. And that is a really hard one. I don't want to say I'm a perfectionist, but it's really hard. I just said, no more research. And I will just look at the papers that I have and just, that is what I'm doing. So it takes the brain power away that I can use for other things. When we're thinking about what we're eating and what we're trying to do and how to heal ourselves and doing all that research, it takes so much energy. And that is better spent thinking about ways and actually doing them, taking one small step, even if it's just writing down I think I'd like to contact this person or these people. I think I'd like to get the equipment that I need and make that ready to go for my future. What can I do today? Not,
Yes. What can I
not
do
tomorrow.
today?
What can I
Not
do
just dream
today?
about the impossible tomorrow.
Right.
And I love that. And this applies, ladies and gentlemen, to every area of our life,
Yeah.
whether we're talking about conceiving a baby. And for those of you who had miscarriages, it is a painful way to dream about something that you really want. I was one of those unfortunate I didn't have miscarriages, but I just couldn't conceive. But I couldn't be always dwelling on the fact that I couldn't conceive. I dwelled on the fact, what steps am I taking today in order to hold my miracle in my arms?
Yes.
And whether it's to losing weight. So if we have 100 pounds to lose, I cannot wake up in the morning and just think, oh my God, 100 pounds. But I'm thinking, what can I do this week to lose 1 pound?
Right.
What foods am I choosing? What thoughts am I speaking? Because thoughts, they provoke emotions, and emotions provoke a chemical reaction in the body that can either prevent or encourage weight loss. So small things, one foot in front of the other. So big dreams, yes, we visualize them, we speak about them, but in a day-to-day, I don't want to call it the
Right.
grind, but the day-to-day
No.
life, we
Yeah.
really do small things. It has to be just one big thing a day and
Mhm.
maybe a lot of tiny ones. That's it.
Right. And those tiny decisions. Again, we go back to that. It's those little decisions that we make. And that was true for me. I can see the big picture. Sometimes it's really hard to know how to get there, especially if you're thinking of something that cannot be achieved in my lifetime, you know, that I just needed to make the little tiny decisions. Okay, an apple or this Cheeto.
Those are
And,
important
you
decisions. Very
and
important
proving,
decisions.
yeah.
And for you,
So,
Aimee, you've accomplished, we're only 3 months in, we have 9 more
yeah,
months to go with you. And I feel like we've already eaten an elephant in the 3 months. I can't imagine what we have
huge.
coming up here. But for you, I see the change in you, symptom free, on the way to becoming medication free. You have this big dream. Where have you personally seen the biggest change in you? Where's the biggest transformation?
So my mindset, which I kind of knew it was something like that, but I couldn't figure out how to change that. I thought I was positive. I thought I was doing what I needed to do, but that inner work that needs to be done is so important. I remember, I think it was Danielle. I remember listening to an interview with her, and I believe it was her, and correct me if I'm wrong. She said that the diet is the easiest thing. It's all the inner work, the mind work that takes the time and takes I don't want to say energy, but it really takes due diligence to kind of go through, and it's layers of an onion. It doesn't happen overnight, and it's discovery, and it's figuring out these little things, and then finding out ways to deal with those things in a positive way and then move on. That is vitally important, and that was what I was missing. And it just wasn't overnight. I know you're doing a series right now that I checked off yes on every single, of your checklist, every single box on your checklist. I'm like,
More work to
yes.
be done.
Every week.
It never ends, but it
Every
is
week.
transformative. And you're not the first one, and I know you'll not be the last one of my clients to say
Yeah.
that. And we always joke about it, the diet is the easy piece. However, most of the world makes it, this is it, like the diet is
Right.
going to make you or break you. And I do agree, a good diet, a hormone, thyroid, immune system healing diet is absolutely essential.
Right.
But within about 3 to 4 weeks, it's just becoming a thing that you do.
Right.
Nothing that you are, but a thing that you do, and it happens automatically. But all the hard work is going to happen from within. It's the person who says yes to an apple rather than a Cheeto. It's a person who will speak up as opposed to being mowed over by somebody else's opinions or desires for her life. It could be somebody who says and speaks up, listen, you might have emotional or physically or some other ways abused me, and that is not okay. And this is what needs to happen. So you're taking your power back. And this is the true transformation, because we find that women who find their voice, which
Yes.
Aimee, you have done tremendously, really fast,
Absolutely.
they're the ones who heal faster too.
They are, because you find your voice, and it frees everything up. You're not holding everything in. and just being stifled and suffocated. Felt like I was suffocating, and we do that to ourselves. Or maybe it's just me. I don't know.
No, it's a
You know,
majority of humanity. We do that to ourselves until
right.
one day we're either fortunate to be awakened or
Hmm.
somebody else wakes us up, or the body is such an amazing, amazing creation. We in the Western world, we think about it as a machine. It is not. It
No,
is filled with the memories, with the emotions, with the programming. And the body, if you don't do what you're supposed to be doing to be your true self, will start breaking down in order to get your attention, especially the harder your life situation. So if there is an emotional or physical abuse, if there is sexual trauma, if there are other things, I've seen it, and this is going to be in my book when I release it,
hmm,
is I call it self-suicide,
yes,
because you're not smart enough to get out or change the situation. The body says, whether it's going to take you a quarter of a century or maybe it's going to happen tomorrow, but I'm going to take away your energy, your ability to think, your ability to feel. You're going to be in panic attacks and anxiety because I'm giving you this. Signals are going out, get out, get out, get
right,
out, change, change, change. Because if you don't want to pay attention with your frontal cortex, the rest of me is going to get you to do it.
correct. And you die this slow death.
Yeah.
How sad is that? Because you're just going through the motions, and that's not
That's
okay.
not the divinely designed plan for,
No.
again, whether you're creationist, evolutionist, does not matter. This is not how we're meant to live our lives.
Mm-mm.
And
No.
I'm glad that you're not.
Yes,
You're
I'm
living
glad too.
your totally transformed life. You are unbecoming and becoming at the same time. I got one
Absolutely.
more question for you, Aimee, and we're
Sure.
going to wrap up with this. Men and women are listening to us right now, and some of them have followed me for years. Some of them just found me yesterday. If they were in your shoes where you were just 3 months ago, and then
Right.
6 months before that, and they just needed to answer this question, why would I reach out? Why would I consider working with the 360 team? What would you tell them?
I would tell them that they are worth so much more than they're settling for, to not settle one more day and take that challenge. Go ahead and schedule, what was it, the 15-minute call, and speak to your team. Really, that doesn't cost anything except for 15 minutes of your time. And that is life changing. We stay in this research mode so often, and I know many people do. Is this right? Will this work? And it does. It 100% does, and it's quick. And our time is worth so much. It is just beyond measure. And to wait even one more day, and that's what I told you, even one more day is unacceptable. And to take action on their life, action on what they need to do and who they are meant to be. So take that action. It's so important. Not one more day. Life is too precious to waste.
I love that, taking
Absolutely.
action. And I love the word that resounded throughout our interview today. It was unacceptable. I love that
Unacceptable.
it's so filled with your strength and emotion.
Right.
And it
Took him
is. I lived through that. I lived through 5 years of depression and gaining weight and not being able to conceive for 3 more years on top of that. It was unacceptable because I felt like I had so much to do, but instead I was lost in the minutia of trying to figure out, do I speak to a naturopath or an osteopath, or I work with a chemist, acupuncturist, chiropractor, medical doctor. I could go on and on and on. But all the while, my life, the very life that I was born to enjoy and fulfill, was just ticking away
Yeah.
1 second at a time. Tick, tock, tick, tock. It was just going away. And I was stuck because there was no better way. And we want you all to have a better way and a faster way because, yes, some of us, like me, we go on and we become health coaches. But most of my clients, they don't want to do that. They want to just get back to the art and joy of their living. They want to become the best, whether they're business owners or there might be CEOs, CFOs, pharmacists, doctors, artists. I work with all of them, or moms who are homeschooling their children, or CFOs of your own household who are running a ship of maybe 9 children and a husband. So all of that is awaiting you. And the time that we spend together, and yes, there's finances involved too, but it takes care of all of the time that you would have wasted on your own. And oh, how I wish, Aimee, when I was sick 15 years ago plus, that somebody had come along and said, we have an A to Z package here for you. You do these things and you're going to get back to living. I would be like, yes, please. Because at that time I was pursuing education. I was working in banking. I was also in photography. I had so many passions until the illness took away all of my energy and I was living on the couch. And when we invited somebody, what would happen? I would be the moment they would say yes. I'm like, oh my God, what did I just do? That meant plowing through this depressive state and not wanting to be around people. Had nothing to do with my introversion, but everything with the fact that life was just not worth living. But we can't turn it around. So Aimee, thank you so much to being the proof that we can turn it around for you, symptom-free in 2 weeks, but now life full for the rest of the year and then thereafter, and being filled with purpose-driven life, unbecoming our old selves to become something that we are. So Aimee, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here and thank you for giving of yourself so freely. If this is your ministry, you've already ministered to us and served us so much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you enjoyed today's interview with Aimee. If you're like Aimee and you're on a precipice of, do I or don't I? Does it sound too good to be true? And I know it does. And it feels too good to be true because now at 44, I feel much younger than I did at 27 when my health issues began. At 44, I don't have to question if I'm going to die a slow death and my body is going to commit self-suicide. I am focused now on this bigger than yourself dream that Aimee and I talked about. What is it that I need to do that is too scary for me to fulfill in my lifetime? That is meant for me. And instead of being lost in the symptoms as I had been before, and like Aimee had been, we're now focused in being lost in our dreams and being found in our voice, in self-purpose, and the community that we're building around us, and enjoying the family. Instead of couch parenting, we're parenting. We're hands-on, running around. Bilan, whom I interviewed last week, and her interview is out, she said now she's dancing and she's smiling. She's riding bikes with her kids, where before, like Aimee, all of us were couch parents at one point, or couch partners, or couch, whoever we were. But we've been there, done that. It's not a grateful or a gracious place to be. So if you're right there on the precipice of making a decision, there is going to be a link in the description of this podcast or a video if you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook. All you have to do is click it. We're going to spend 15 minutes asking you 9 simple questions to determine if your dreams are something that I can assist you with and my team. If you, like Aimee, could be symptom-free within a few weeks as opposed to waiting another quarter of your life to figure out, well, maybe it's going to all shake out on its own. So if you're there, click on the link, schedule your call. We'll speak to you and we'll talk about your purpose. And then if we feel that we can help you, you're going to end up talking to me or to one of my coaches for an hour. We're going to come up with a plan that will be specific to you, and we're going to know what is it that you need to do in order to become the kind of person that I have become and Aimee has become, and unbecome the old version of yourself. Thank you so much for your time and attention. We're going to see you on the next episode of the Health Wizard podcast. There you have it. I hope you enjoyed today's topic. If you did, make sure to subscribe to the Health Wizard podcast, and please don't forget to tell others about it. If you would like to get more information about me and what I do, how I help amazing human beings just like you to achieve their dream health, go to www.360impacthealth.com. Go to the contact page and shoot me a note. Thank you so much for listening. I'll catch you on the next episode of the Health Wizard podcast. This is your host, Yelena, wishing you optimal natural health.